Gill.
Thank you, Chairwoman Green, and I apologize. I'm getting over a cold, so I'm losing my voice here. Ms. Maher, I want to start with you. Just generally, would you say you generally agree or disagree with the following statement? The history of all hitherto existing society is the history of class struggles?
I would not say I agree with that, sir.
You're not. That's good to hear. It's interesting because a lot of your thinking, as expressed by your public statements, is deeply infused with economic and cultural Marxism. Do you believe that America is addicted to white supremacy?
I believe that I tweeted that, and as I've said earlier, I believe much of my thinking has evolved over the last half-decade.
It has evolved. Why did you tweet that?
I don't recall the exact context, sir, so I wouldn't be able to say.
Okay. Do you believe that America believes in black plunder and white democracy?
I don't believe that, sir.
You tweeted that in reference to a book you were reading at the time, apparently, The Case for Reparations.
I don't think I've ever read that book, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, patriots of this great nation, welcome back to the channel where we stand for truth, justice, and the American way. Today, we're diving headfirst into a heated exchange that took place during a congressional hearing. Representative Gill confronted NPR CEO Katherine Maher with some hard-hitting questions about her past tweets and NPR's content. And let me just say, what a moment for accountability. This is the kind of conversation we need to have in America right now, because tax dollars are on the line and the values of this country are at stake. Now, before we get into the details, let me remind you why this matters. NPR is funded by our taxpayer dollars. That's your money and my money. So when they push divisive narratives, promote radical ideology, and use our hard-earned tax dollars to fund content that undermines American values, well, it's time for us to speak up. And that's exactly what Representative Gill did. Let's break this down piece by piece, because there's a lot to unpack here.
You tweeted about it. You said you took a day off to fully read the case for reparations. You put that on Twitter in January of 2020.
I apologize, I don't recall that I did.
Okay.
I'd no doubt that your tweet there is correct, but I don't recall that.
Okay. Do you believe that white people inherently feel superior to other races?
I do not.
You don't? You tweeted something to that effect. You said, I grew up feeling superior. Ha, how white of me. Why did you tweet that?
I think I was probably reflecting on what it was to grow up in an environment where I had lots of advantages.
It sounds like you're saying that white people feel superior.
I don't believe that anybody feels that way, sir. I was just reflecting on my own experiences.
Do you think that white people should pay reparations?
I have never said that, sir.
Yes, you did. You said it in January of 2020. You tweeted, yes, the North, yes, all of us, yes, America, yes, our original collective sin and unpaid debt, yes, reparations, yes, on this day.
I don't believe that was a reference to fiscal reparations, sir.
What kind of reparations was it a reference to?
I think it was just a reference to the idea that we all owe much to the people who came before us.
That's a bizarre way to frame what you tweeted. Okay, how much reparations have you personally paid?
Sir, I don't believe that I've ever paid reparations.
Okay, it's just for everybody else.
I'm not asking anyone to pay reparations.
Seems to be what you're suggesting. Do you believe that looting is morally wrong?
I believe that looting is illegal, and I refer to it as counterproductive. I think it should be prosecuted.
Do you believe it's morally wrong, though?
Of course.
Of course. Then why did you refer to it as counterproductive? It's a very different way to describe it.
It is both morally wrong and counterproductive, as well as being illegal.
You tweeted, it's hard to be mad about protests in reference to the BLM protests, not prioritizing the private property of a system of oppression. You didn't condemn the looting. You said that it was counterproductive. NPR also promoted a book called In Defense of Looting. Do you think that that's an appropriate use of taxpayer dollars?
I'm unfamiliar with that book, sir, and I don't believe that was at my time at NPR.
You tweeted that you read that book, but
I don't believe that I did read that book, sir.
Do you think that a few years ago, NPR educated America about, quote, the whole community of genderqueer dinosaur enthusiasts? Do you think that that's an appropriate use of tax dollars?
I was not at NPR at the time, sir.
That's not the question, though. Do you think that that's an appropriate use of our tax dollars?
I think our tax dollars that we use are to be able to provide a wide range of perspectives.
I'll take that as a yes. You do believe that that's appropriate. Your health advisor at NPR also stated in an interview that, quote, fear of fatness is more harmful than actual fat. Would you like to explain how fear of fatness is more harmful than actual fat? That's an editorial at NPR.
I am not familiar with the editorial, and I don't believe that was published during my time here.
It's called Diet Culture is Everywhere. Here's how to fight it. Do you think that that's an appropriate use of taxpayer dollars?
I think any reporting on health is an appropriate use of taxpayer dollars, yes.
And you think that editorializing that fat is not unhealthy is appropriate?
I don't know what that article is, sir, and I'm not familiar with it, so I
This
couldn't
is
say.
fake news. Do you think that basic accommodations like doorways or seat belts represent, quote, latent fat phobia?
I don't have an opinion.
It's
on that,
also
sir.
from NPR. Do you think civility is racist?
No, sir.
No. Your outlet ran an article entitled, quote, When Civility is Used as a Cudgel Against People of Color. That was on All Things Considered. Would you like to explain?
I'm not on the editorial side, sir. I'm not familiar with that story.
You talk about how NPR is news. This is editorialization, and I'll read it. For many people of color in the United States, civility isn't so much social lubricant as it is a vehicle for containing them, preventing social mobility, and preserving the status quo. This is garbage. I'll spend all of my time doing everything I can to ensure you guys never get another dollar of taxpayer funding. This is complete garbage. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Gill.
Right out of the gate, Gill asked Maher if she agreed with the classic Marxist idea that all of history is about class struggles. Now, Maher denied agreeing with it, and that's good. I'll give her credit for that. But let's not forget, her public statements and tweets are full of Marxist rhetoric. She's out here pushing ideas rooted in economic and cultural Marxism. And let's not kid ourselves, whether it's intentional or not, this kind of ideology is toxic to the American way of life. It pits people against each other, divides us by race and class, and undermines the foundational principle that we're all created equal under God. That's not what this country is about. Here's where things start to get really troubling. Maher admitted to tweeting that America is addicted to white supremacy. She claimed her thinking has evolved since then, but let's be real. Why would anyone in a position of influence say something so inflammatory in the first place? Statements like that aren't just wrong, they're dangerous. They fuel division and hatred in this country. America isn't perfect, but to reduce our entire nation to some caricature of white supremacy is not only insulting, it's flat out false. This kind of rhetoric is tearing us apart, and it's coming from people whose salaries are funded by us, the taxpayers. Oh, this was gold. When Gill asked Maher how much she's personally paid in reparations, she was caught like a deer in headlights. She had no answer. And why? Because these people love to preach about collective guilt and reparations, but they never want to take personal responsibility. Let's get something straight. This idea that modern Americans who had nothing to do with slavery should pay reparations to other modern Americans is absurd. It's un-American. This country was built on hard work, individual responsibility, and opportunity for all. We are not responsible for the sins of the past, and we shouldn't be guilt-tripped into paying for them. Here's where Maher really showed her true colors. She called looting counterproductive instead of condemning it as morally wrong. Let me say this loud and clear, looting is wrong. Period. It's theft. It's a crime. And it's an attack on law-abiding citizens and small business owners who are just trying to make a living. But no, Maher and NPR would rather tiptoe around the issue. They'd rather justify or minimize looting because it fits their narrative. And let's not forget, NPR even promoted a book called In Defense of Looting. I mean, are you kidding me? Is this what we're paying for with our tax dollars? And then we get to the clown show portion of this hearing. NPR, the so-called news outlet, is out here promoting stories about genderqueer dinosaur enthusiasts and claiming that fear of fatness is more harmful than fat itself. Seriously, folks, this is what they're doing with our money. Let me ask you, how does any of this serve the public good? How does it inform or educate the American people? It doesn't. It's woke nonsense, plain and simple. This is taxpayer-funded propaganda designed to push a far-left agenda, and it's time to put an end to it. This one really gets under my skin. NPR ran an article claiming that civility is used to contain people of color and preserve the status quo. What kind of garbage is this? Civility is not racist. It's the foundation of a functioning society. But of course, the left loves to twist everything into a racial issue. They'll demonize basic decency and manners if it helps them push their narrative. It's absurd and it's insulting to the millions of Americans of all races who believe in treating each other with respect. At the end of the day, this hearing wasn't just about Katherine Maher or her tweets. It's about something much bigger. It's about accountability. It's about stopping the misuse of taxpayer dollars. And it's about fighting back against the radical left's attempt to undermine everything this country stands for. Representative Gill was absolutely right to call this out. NPR and its leadership need to answer for the divisive, biased, and frankly ridiculous content they're producing. And if they can't get their act together, they don't deserve another dime of taxpayer funding. So here's what we need to do, patriots. We need to stand up and demand accountability. Contact your representatives. Let them know you don't want your tax dollars funding NPR's woke agenda. Share this video with your friends and family. Let's get the word out. The left wants to rewrite our history, divide our nation, and undermine our values. But we're not going to let them. We're going to fight back because this is our country, and it's worth fighting for. Thank you for watching, and thank you for standing up for America. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content that tells it like it is. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.